Chosen one, there is a realization spreading right now that you never received proper credit for your intelligence, but suddenly it is being noted, written down and discussed. Now the world is recalibrating, and your way of thinking fits first. The hierarchy is flipping. What was overlooked is now sought after. What was dismissed is now respected. What's happening right now is a complete re-evaluation of your decision-making history. People are going back through the archives of their memory and examining a string of decisions that looked absolutely insane. Decisions that made them genuinely concerned about your mental state. Maybe they staged interventions. Maybe they whispered about you needing help. They judged you harshly. They talked about you constantly. Predictions about how badly things would end for you filled rooms where you weren't present. That string of decisions led you to a good outcome, an unexpected outcome, a shocking outcome that has their jaws on the floor right now. When they look at where you are compared to where they predicted you would be, the gap is making their minds explode. They're saying things like, "Wait, how did that actually work out?" They're thinking, "That was actually kind of smart." The light bulbs are going off in their heads, and what they're seeing can't be unseen anymore. Once they recognize your intelligence, denial becomes impossible. For some of you, the journey isn't complete yet. You're still making those decisions that seem unusual to everyone around you. They seem disconnected from common sense. They seem out of alignment with the safe path everyone else is taking. These decisions make even you question yourself sometimes in your weakest moments. Why would I do that? Why am I choosing the hard way runs through your mind. But somehow, some way, deep down in your spirit, you know that was the move. You feel it even when your mind screams at you to turn back. That's the difference between you and everyone else. You operate on a frequency they don't understand yet. You receive downloads that don't make sense to the natural mind. You hear instructions from the divine that sound like nonsense to conventional thinking. And that's exactly why you're chosen. That's exactly why you're different. Your path looks nothing like anyone else's path. You're not supposed to make sense to them. You're supposed to make sense to heaven. You possess high intelligence that operates in ways most people can't recognize. Your mental quickness catches people off guard. You're witty in conversations. You're clever in situations. You see angles that others miss completely. Some people who are looking at you now think this person is genuinely brilliant. They see that real intelligence exists here, but it's also mixed with this feeling that you somehow tricked them. You were slick, you were sly, you were sly, you were sly. You saw 7 moves ahead while they were still figuring out the first step. Now they're trying to reconcile the person they perceived you to be with the person you're revealing yourself to be. This creates cognitive tension. Their entire perceptions are being shattered and rebuilt in real time. Think about what that does to someone's ego. For extended periods, they positioned themselves as smarter than you, more put together than you, more successful than you. They felt superiority every time they witnessed another one of your crazy decisions. Pity probably mixed with their judgment. Now they have to admit to themselves that they were completely wrong, not just slightly wrong, completely and totally wrong about you. That's bitter medicine they're being forced to swallow slowly. You're about to receive decision-making power on a level you've never experienced before in your entire life. Why? Because in your last season you demonstrated something crucial. Through the highs and the lows, through the celebrations and the valleys, you stayed focused enough to make those risky, scary decisions that required you to have faith and back it up with action. You didn't just talk about faith. You didn't just pray about it. You actually did the uncomfortable thing. You actually took the leap. You actually burned the bridge when everyone told you to keep your options open. That kind of obedience to your inner guidance, that kind of commitment to your vision, even when you had no evidence it would work out, that's what catches heaven's attention. That's what makes the divine say, "This one is ready for more. This one can handle authority." This one won't abuse power because they've been humbled. This one won't get prideful because they remember what it felt like to be counted out. And now you're being blessed with a whole new level of decision-making authority that's going to shock you when you see how much influence you're about to carry. A lot of responsibility is flowing into your atmosphere right now. You're about to be in charge of things you never thought you'd oversee. You're about to have the authority to call this, name that, build this, launch that. You're going to be hiring people. You're going to be firing people. You're going to be making decisions that affect other people's lives. You're getting positioned in places of power and influence. And here's the beautiful part that I really want you to catch. You're not even asking for it. You're not out here campaigning for position. You're not networking your way into rooms. Life is just arranging itself around your elevation. The universe is conspiring to give you what you earned through all those unpopular decisions that nobody understood. If this message aligned with your purpose, hype this video so fellow chosen ones can find their confirmation. Doors are going to open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities are going to present themselves that you didn't apply for. People are going to recommend you for things you didn't even know existed. It's going to feel surreal. It's going to feel undeserved in some moments because you're so used to being overlooked. You're so used to being passed over. You're so used to watching less qualified people get the positions you should have had. But that season is over now. That chapter is closed. The divine is course-correcting everything that was out of alignment. Every opportunity you should have had but didn't get, heaven has been keeping a record. And now it's time for the release of accumulated blessings that have been stored up with your name on them. Now let me tell you what you've sparked in your community, in your family, in your past relationships, in your friend groups, in your old jobs, and even in the job you're in right now. You've created a massive question in people's minds that they can't stop wrestling with. The question is this: what's actually right and wrong versus what's just popular and what's just preference? This question is shaking people to their core because it's forcing them to examine their own judgment. It's making them question their own decision-making. If they were that wrong about you, what else are they wrong about? The answer is becoming painfully clear to them now. Maybe it's becoming clear to you too, in a way it never was before. You did what was right for you, even when it wasn't popular, even when it got you ostracized and pushed out of the group, even when people blamed you for things that weren't your fault, even when they wanted you to carry the burden of being wrong so they could feel right. The whole time you weren't wrong, they just didn't prefer what you did. That's a massive difference that most people don't understand. That's the gap between objective truth and subjective opinion. You are being exonerated right now, in this very moment, in real time. You're being lifted out of dark places spiritually. You're being elevated out of pits you've been stuck in. Why? Because it's finally being taken off of you. These burdens you've been carrying, these false accusations, these wrong labels, they were never yours to begin with. The universe is removing them from your shoulders. You're not wrong. You just chose the unpopular thing. You're not bad. You just traveled the road less traveled. People are reading old messages right now. They're scrolling through old emails. They're replaying conversations mentally. And every time they do this, they're seeing something they missed the first time. Your cleverness, your wit, the intelligence that was always there but they refused to acknowledge, because acknowledging it would mean admitting they were wrong about you. Some people can follow your whole journey. They know what you've been through. They know what you had to overcome. They remember the decisions that seemed insane at the time. When they reevaluate those decisions now with the benefit of hindsight and the evidence of how things actually turned out, it hits them like a revelation. Some of you are still on the journey. You haven't reached the destination yet. You're still in the active process of those decisions playing out. A turn is coming. A major left turn, when everybody is screaming at you to go right. People are going to think you lost your mind. They're going to stage interventions. They're going to send you articles and podcasts trying to convince you to change course. but you're going to do it anyway, because you know what they don't know. You hear what they can't hear. You see what they refuse to see. You're going to witness how it unfolds. You're going to see the final result with your own eyes. And the final result is going to make people say out loud, "This person is way smarter than we ever gave them credit for. This person was playing chess while we were all playing checkers. This person was building something we couldn't even conceptualize." You're about to come to a pivot point where everything changes, where everything turns around, where you finally cross over from one state of being into another. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. You can drop the burden now. You can drop your suitcases at the door. It's time to have fun. You're on a spiritual vacation where you get to take a break from being stressed, from being burdened, from feeling guilty about stuff you never should have felt guilty about in the first place. Other people need to pick up their own burdens. They need to carry their own weight. You don't have to carry what isn't yours anymore. The universe is making that crystal clear. The divine is drawing hard boundary lines and saying this is theirs and this is yours, and you're not responsible for managing other people's emotions about your success. How does that feel? For extended periods, people kept telling you that you were wrong. They kept that narrative alive. They fed that story to anyone who would listen. Now they're watching you succeed, and they have to take back all that time spent thinking you were wrong. They have to admit that you were just doing the unpopular thing that led to the popular outcome. That hurts their pride. That stings their ego. But that's not your problem anymore. That's not your responsibility to manage. You did it, or you're in the process of doing it. This is graduation time. New level time. Promotion season. The fight you had to maintain wasn't a physical fight. It was the fight to make unpopular decisions when every fiber of your being wanted to conform. It was the fight to turn that steering wheel, left even when turning right would have been so much easier and so much more accepted. That kind of fight requires a different kind of strength. It requires internal strength. It requires you to fight with yourself, to override your own doubts and fears and need for approval. And you did that over and over again. You chose the hard right over the easy wrong so many times that it built character in you that other people don't have. Behind the scenes, things are occurring that you can't see with your natural eyes. People want to reach out to you. They're composing messages in their notes apps. They're drafting texts they haven't sent yet. They're rehearsing conversations in their heads. They're feeling romantic about the past, or curious about the future, or convicted about how they treated you. Someone is re-evaluating your entire decision-making history, and it's making them see you in a completely different light. It's like watching a movie they've already seen, but this time understanding the plot twist they missed initially. For some of you, this isn't someone from your distant past. This could be someone in your immediate vortex right now, someone in your current circle, someone who's been watching you up close. The light bulbs are turning on in their head, like a stadium flipping all the lights on at once. They want to say something. They want to communicate. They're realizing that you beat out all the competition without even competing. You don't compare yourself to others. You don't measure your worth by other people's standards. But someone has been putting you next to other people in their mind, running comparisons, and now they're realizing that what you said was true over time, and what everyone else said turned out to be lies and hype and empty promises. Someone wants to come to you and explain themselves. They want to tell you the real reason they went with someone else, or dismissed you, or ghosted you, or didn't choose you when they should have. They want to admit that other people saying what you were doing was bad influenced their decision. Other people saying it was dumb swayed their choice. Other people predicting your failure affected their judgment, and they believed the crowd instead of trusting their own discernment. Now they're stuck with the regret of that choice. People sat around in groups and predicted your downfall like it was a game. They made bets on when you would crash and burn. They formed bonds with each other over their shared belief that you were making terrible decisions and your life was going to fall apart spectacularly. These were your rivals, your secret competitors, people who smiled in your face while betting against you behind closed doors. But there's someone stuck in the middle who feels completely bamboozled right now. They're thinking, wait a minute, those people were just hating. They were saying those things out of jealousy, out of insecurity, out of their own fear of taking risks. Let's get real about something. The reason people tried so hard to make you doubt your intelligence is because your mind was always the biggest threat to their false sense of superiority. They needed you to question yourself because your clarity threatened their delusions. They needed you to stay confused because your understanding would expose their ignorance. They needed you to play small intellectually because your full mental capacity would reveal how limited their thinking actually was. So they attacked your intelligence in subtle and not so subtle ways. They called you slow when you were being thorough. They called you complicated when you were being comprehensive. They called you confusing when you were being nuanced. They called you impractical when you were being visionary. Every label they put on you was designed to make you shrink your intellectual capacity down to a size that didn't intimidate them. And for a season, maybe you believed some of those labels. Maybe you started to think there was something wrong with how your mind works. Maybe you tried to think simpler, smaller, more conventional to fit in with people who were never on your level to begin with. But your mind refused to be shrunk. Your intelligence refused to be diminished. Even when you tried to play it down, it kept showing up. Even when you tried to hide it, it kept revealing itself in the decisions you made and the outcomes you produced. Your mind is a weapon that can't be disarmed, and on some level, the people who attacked your intelligence knew that. They knew that once you fully stepped into your intellectual power, the game would change. They knew that once you stopped doubting yourself and started trusting your own mental capacity, they would lose whatever psychological advantage they thought they had over you. Now you're in a season where you're done playing small intellectually. You're done pretending you don't see what you see. You're done acting like you don't know what you know. You're done dumbing yourself down to make other people comfortable. And the moment you stepped into that fullness, everything shifted. People's perception of you changed because your perception of yourself changed. You started carrying yourself like the intelligent person you've always been, and people had no choice but to respond to that energy differently. The weapon of your mind is being unleashed in this season, and it's going to dismantle every false narrative that was built about you, every lie that was told, every limitation that was projected onto you. Your intelligence is about to prove itself in ways that leave no room for debate. People won't be able to question it anymore because the evidence will be overwhelming, the results will be undeniable, the impact will be measurable. Because of the recognition of your intelligence, you're being granted access to rooms you never had access to before. Rooms where decisions get made, rooms where strategies get developed, rooms where the future gets planned. And you're not being invited as an observer, you're being brought in as a contributor, as someone whose input is valued, as someone whose perspective is needed. This is a dramatic shift from seasons where you couldn't even get your ideas heard in basic settings, and now consultation in high-level environments is happening. These rooms contain people who have accomplished things you've only dreamed about, people who have resources you've been praying for, people who have connections you've been needing, and they're viewing you as a peer, they're engaging with you as an equal, they're treating your intelligence as valuable currency in these spaces. This is what happens when heaven decides it's your time. Doors don't just crack open, they swing wide. Access isn't limited, it's abundant. What's beautiful about these rooms opening is that you're not changing who you are to get access to them. You're not code switching, you're not putting on a different personality, you're not pretending to think differently than you actually think. You're being invited into these spaces because of who you authentically are and how you genuinely think. Your unique intelligence is the key opening these doors. The same thinking that got you excluded from certain rooms in the past is now getting you included in rooms that actually matter. You need to understand something crucial. You're not in these rooms by accident. You're not there because someone did you a favor. You're not there because you got lucky. You're there because your intelligence earned you that seat. Your decision-making track record qualified you. Your ability to see what others can't see made you valuable to these environments. Own that. Walk into these rooms with confidence. Contribute your perspective without apology. Your voice deserves to be heard in these spaces because your mind has proven it belongs there. People aren't just acknowledging your intelligence anymore. They're trying to study how you think. They want to understand your methods. They want to know how you make decisions. They're asking themselves, how did this person know to do that when all the conventional wisdom said something else? They're reverse engineering your success to see if they can replicate it, and honestly they can't, because your intelligence isn't just methodological, it's spiritual, it's intuitive, it's connected to something they can't access by simply copying your external actions. But watching them try is interesting. You'll notice people starting to ask you more questions about your thought process. How did you know to make that move? What made you think that would work? Where did you get that idea? They're genuinely curious now, instead of judgmental. They want to learn from you instead of correct you. This shift in how people engage with your intelligence is significant. It means you're transitioning from being the student everyone thought needed teaching to being the teacher people want to learn from. Some people are studying your past decisions like case studies. They're going back through situations where you made choices that seemed wrong at the time and trying to understand the logic behind them. They're creating mental frameworks to understand your decision-making patterns. They're looking for the formula, the system, the method. And what frustrates some of them is that your intelligence doesn't operate on a formula they can easily diagram. You operate on downloads, on spiritual guidance, on intuitive knowing that can't be reduced to a simple process they can copy and paste into their own lives. What they're discovering through this study of your methods is that your intelligence is multidimensional. You don't just think logically. You don't just think emotionally. You don't just think creatively. You think in all these ways simultaneously and synthesize information from multiple sources to make decisions. That's why your choices seemed so confusing to people who operate on single-dimensional thinking. They only think logically and ignore intuition. Or they only think emotionally and ignore analysis. But you integrate everything, and that integration creates a form of intelligence that looks like genius to people who finally understand what they're witnessing. There's something about your intelligence that needs to be named specifically. You have the kind of intelligence that can't be taught in schools, can't be learned from books, can't be acquired through traditional education. You have intuitive intelligence. You have spiritual intelligence. You have street intelligence. You have emotional intelligence. You have the kind of knowing that comes from lived experience, from divine download, from deep observation of patterns that others miss. This is why people couldn't measure your intelligence through conventional means. The tests weren't designed to capture what you have. This unteachable intelligence is what's making you invaluable in this season. Organizations are realizing they can hire people with degrees and credentials all day, but those people don't have the instinctive knowing that you possess. They can follow processes, but they can't read a room the way you read a room. They can execute plans, but they can't pivot in real time based on subtle shifts in energy and dynamics the way you can. What you have can't be downloaded through a course. It can't be transferred through a training program. It's either in you or it's not, and it's in you at levels that are becoming impossible to ignore. People are starting to ask you how you know things. How did you know that situation was going to play out that way? How did you know that person wasn't trustworthy? How did you know that opportunity wasn't right, even though it looked good on paper? And when you try to explain it, you realize there's no logical pathway to articulate. You just knew, you felt it. Something in your spirit said yes or no, and you've learned to trust that voice. This is the intelligence that's getting you recognized now, not your ability to regurgitate information, but your ability to receive revelation. What makes this particularly powerful is that this form of intelligence gets stronger with use. The more you trust it, the sharper it becomes. The more you act on it, the more accurate it gets. You're not operating off of outdated intelligence anymore. You're receiving real-time downloads about situations as they develop. You're getting advance notice about things before they fully manifest. This is why your decisions seem to have supernatural timing. You're not just smart. You're tapped in. You're connected. You're receiving guidance that gives you advantages others don't have. There are people who owe you intellectual credit for things they're getting recognition for right now. Ideas you shared that they dismissed at the time, but later implemented and took credit for. Strategies you suggested that they rejected, but eventually used without acknowledging where the concept came from. Insights you provided that they ignored until someone else said the same thing, and suddenly it sounded brilliant. This intellectual theft might have been unconscious on their part, but it happened, and on some level, they know it happened. The universe is bringing this to light in ways that make people uncomfortable. Someone is in a meeting right now, getting praised for an idea, and in their spirit, they know that idea originated from a conversation with you. They know they should acknowledge you, but they don't, because it would diminish their moment. Someone is being celebrated for wisdom they're sharing, and deep down they remember you said the same thing when nobody was ready to hear it. The conviction they feel in those moments is part of your vindication process. Even if they never publicly give you credit, the fact that they know the truth is enough for the universe to mark it in your favor. But here's what's even more powerful. There are also people who are starting to give you retroactive credit. They're going back and correcting the record. They're telling people, actually, that came from a conversation I had with this person. They're being honest about the sources of their insights and ideas. They're making sure you get acknowledged for your intellectual contributions, even when it costs them some glory. These are people of integrity who value truth over their own reputation, and the universe is blessing them for their honesty, while simultaneously elevating you through their acknowledgement. You need to understand that intellectual credit isn't just about recognition, it's about alignment with truth. Every time someone takes credit for your ideas, they create spiritual misalignment for themselves. They build on a false foundation, but every time someone gives you proper credit, they create alignment and open themselves up to receive more genuine insights of their own. This is why some people who stole your ideas without acknowledgement eventually hit a wall in their own growth. They tried to build on what wasn't theirs, and the foundation couldn't support what they were trying to create. Meanwhile, you keep receiving fresh downloads and new insights because you're operating in truth. You're not trying to take credit for things that aren't yours. You're not building on stolen intellectual property. You're connected to the source of wisdom itself, so the well never runs dry for you. While they're trying to squeeze more mileage out of that one idea they got from you, you've already moved on to concepts and insights they can't even comprehend yet. This is the difference between someone who has intelligence and someone who is connected to the source of all intelligence. You're about to see cargo ships come in, loaded with blessings and opportunities and connections and resources and things you didn't even know to ask for. You don't even know the full extent of what's on those ships yet. But you know it's good. You can feel it. You know you're about to see a return on that investment of faith. You're about to reap what you've been sowing in secret. The last is about to become first in a way that shocks everyone, including you. You held the vision when nobody else could see it. You had an idea when everyone said it was impossible. You had a dream when people told you to be realistic. You had to make a bunch of unpopular but absolutely correct decisions to get there. And now it all makes sense. What's coming in for you is about to make complete sense. Everything is going to click into place. All the pieces are going to align. And when it does, you're going to look back on this journey with such deep gratitude, because you'll understand why it had to happen exactly the way it happened. People want to be a part of your family now. They want to be a part of your team. They want to be a part of what you're building. Someone wants to be your support system. They want to help maintain all the different avenues of opportunity you have spiritually. They want to contribute to your success. They want to play a role in your story. And for some of you, there's someone reading those old text messages right now, thinking about what could have been. You were their fulfillment, and they couldn't see it then. It didn't make sense to them when everyone was telling them you were making bad choices, but it makes perfect sense right now. There's an attraction to your intelligence that's hitting them completely differently now. They want to see if there's still a chance. They want to know if the door is still open, even a little bit. This is also about you in general, though. Beyond any specific person, things have come full circle for you. They make complete sense now. You're on the right track, and all you have to do is keep moving forward with confidence. People want to be a part of whatever you're doing, whatever you're starting, the new business, the new ministry, the new organization, the new creative project. You're putting together a team because you have special assignments coming that you can't do alone, and someone wants to be right there next to you, face to face, side by side. They see something in you now that they couldn't see before or refused to see before. You are a chosen one. And that's not just motivational language. That's not just something people say to make you feel temporarily good. It's a spiritual reality that's been true since before you were born. You were selected for this specific path. You were equipped for this particular journey. You were prepared for this exact assignment. Every struggle you went through was training. Every person who doubted you was preparation. Every unpopular decision you made was building your capacity to handle what's coming next. You are not like everyone else. You don't think like everyone else. You don't move like everyone else. And that's exactly why you're being elevated while others are being exposed. The divine has been watching your every move, recording your every sacrifice, noting your every moment of faith when you had zero evidence that things would work out. Heaven has been keeping detailed records of every time you chose obedience over comfort, and now it's time for the rewards to manifest in the physical realm. Now it's time for the recognition you were denied to come flooding in. Now it's time for people to acknowledge what was always true about you. You're smart, you're gifted, you're anointed, you're chosen, you're strategic, you're brilliant, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop what's coming for you, because it's divinely orchestrated and heaven approved. The credit you deserve is finally coming. The recognition you earned is finally manifesting, and this is just the beginning of what heaven has planned. There are levels to this thing that you haven't seen yet, upgrades you can't imagine yet, opportunities that haven't presented themselves yet. But they're coming, they're on the way, they're loaded on those cargo ships headed to your shore, and when they arrive, everything changes, everything shifts, Everything elevates to a level that makes your current reality look like those early days you thought would never end. So get ready. Prepare yourself mentally and spiritually. Position yourself to receive what's coming, because what's approaching is bigger than what you've seen. What's coming is better than what you've experienced. What's coming is the full manifestation of everything you believed for when nobody else could see it. This is your time. This is your season. This is your moment, and the whole world is about to see what heaven has always known about you. So take a deep breath, smile from your soul, and step fully into everything that's been waiting for you since before you took your first breath. Because, chosen one, your time is now, your season is here, and the credit you deserve is finally being given. Walk in it with confidence, own it without apology, celebrate it with gratitude. You've earned every single bit of it through faith, through obedience, through staying true to yourself when the whole world was telling you to be someone else. They didn't give you the credit you deserved for being smart, but now it's being noted, it's being discussed, it's being acknowledged, and there's nothing they can do to take it back. The truth always comes to light, justice always prevails, and chosen ones always rise, always.